clock right here. So if you guys are ready, we've got 3 people joining us. So hello to Adriana, Charlene, and Paula. I just wanted to do a couple of housekeeping items first. So first, we're welcome to our webinar, which is COVID-19's effect on bucket list equestrian endurance races. I kind of came up with this idea because I know a lot of us are suffering the loss of at least part of a show season, maybe a full show season at this point, big races. Some of us can't even see or ride our horses right now, which is like a big hit to equestrians. Obviously, it's a huge part of our identity. But the best people I know to be able to cope with big changes like this are ultra endurance riders, because as we know, things never go according to plan, which I think Alex is trying to demonstrate right now.
He really wants to be a part of this discussion.
So I wanted to kind of pick some of my friends and people's brains on this, on what they're doing to kind of get through COVID, how they're keeping their attitude up, how they're being resilient, and what their attitude changes are as a result of this. That's why I wanted to start this, and that's why I wanted to share it, so that not just for other ultra equestrians who are losing the races this year, but for anybody who might be mourning the loss of something that they hold dearly and something that they've been looking forward to probably all winter, especially if you're in Canada and it's been really, really cold and snowy. So I wanted to start out. We're going to do this in chronological order of race, if that makes sense to you guys. I wanted to know a little bit about each of you. Talk to the group as if they have no idea who we are. And so tell us a bit about you, what race you have entered, and what the current status of this race is. So we're going to start with Stevie and Erik.
Sorry, start with Stevie and Erik, you said?
Yeah, because you guys have already done your race essentially. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the Gaucho Derby a little bit first. Tell us about you guys. Tell us about the Gaucho Derby and kind of what the strategies of that.
Sure. So Gaucho Derby, I'm Stevie Delahunt. Hi. I've done quite a few, been lucky enough to do quite a few adventure races. The Mongol Derby was my first one. That's where I met Sarah. The next one was Race the Wild Coast, which is where I met my husband. And then I've just come back from doing the Gaucho Derby with my husband. Erik was there for it as well, Erik Cooper. And yeah.
Hey.
Pass that off to Erik.
1 second. My dad's like deciding to mow the fucking lawn as I sit out on the porch to get away from everything.
Of course.
Switching locations, everybody. Stevie, keep talking.
Okay. So sorry, I missed a little bit because we were trying to get away from Alex when you panned.
So just,
what else would you like to know?
Tell us a little bit about the Gaucho Derby, as if somebody's never heard about it before.
Sure. So Gaucho Derby took place a while ago. It was slated to be a pack horse race. Turned into a non-pack horse race over 500 kilometers. It was a multi-day stage race. We ended up changing up the format because we had a inclement weather issue. And yeah, it's definitely, in comparison to the other world horse races, much more of a survival race. You happen to have horses with you. You're packing out everything for yourself. You're entirely self-sufficient in a totally different way, which sets it apart from all the other endurance horse races.
And something that Stevie didn't mention is actually this was the Pioneer edition too, so this had never been done before.
That's definitely true. We'll have some great improvements on the race in the future, but it was an incredible experience. So, and the horses in Argentina are absolutely amazing. Criollo horses really impressed me. They had draft blood, but they pulsed down to 54 beats so easily. It's really impressive.
Erik, do you want to chime in your role here?
Yeah, I almost am all alone. Just the dog. She pushed the doors open, and now she's in here. I can't get away from me. Yeah, no. So yeah, Pioneer Run. I rode it as a crew member. Was you really need to be in shape. I think Stevie can attest to that, but she's in really good shape. Yeah, we were down in Argentina for the Pioneer Run. The whole point for it was to kind of develop what the future of the race is like, what it's going to be like, and changes, what was good, what was not so good, and what we're going to do in the future. So that was, yeah, during the start of the zombie apocalypse, and then we all got the hell out of there.
So we might as well go into question 2 before we go into everybody else's too then, because you touched on it. What was it like going from being out in the middle of Patagonia to coming back into the zombie apocalypse, as you called it?
It was kind of like going from a video game where we were trying to stay alive. We had just survived through something crazy, like we've mentioned before, a snowstorm that no one was really quite equipped for. And then we came back and it was like being in the beginning of a horror film. And so part of me keeps waiting to wake up at the beginning of the Gaucho Derby because it's all been kind of crazy since.
Did you guys have any news of this while it was happening, while you were in the race? Or did you come back and be like, no, you're joking. This is some weird practical joke you're playing on me for, a good gag video or something, right?
We definitely heard from crew that something was going on, but the seriousness of it we didn't grasp until we got back to the hotel that night, and everyone was rebooking flights and panicking. So it became very real very quickly, but we didn't know the extent of what it was going to be, just as we don't know the extent now. I think for us and for Dylan and myself and what we do, canceling a Tevis Cup was huge. I mean, that's our lives. So that going away was just shocking. It made it really real. Everyone's got those events right now that get canceled, and it's like, oh, this is serious. This is changing the way we live.
Yeah, absolutely. Erik?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely didn't think it was that serious. And even when everyone was rebooking their flights, I was like, I'm just going to stay here and live in Argentina until this blows over. And then they told me that, then the U.S. was pretty much like, you either book flights home or you stay where you are. And we just came from winter here in the States. I'm not doing another winter in Argentina for another year. So, yeah, so I was like, let me just get the hell out of here real quick. So I think I was one of like the last out to get the hell back to the States.
Absolutely, yeah. So I guess I'm the next one who's up. I was actually entered in the Marcha, which is in southern Brazil, and that was due to take place in a little under a month. And I actually didn't hear until this morning about what the status was of this. So it was cutting it pretty close. So the Marcha is a 750-kilometer race on the Criollo horses as well, but it's on one single horse, and I was really excited to see how in the world they managed this. So I've been invested in this since about January, which isn't actually that long for a training program. So I've been invested in this, but the interesting thing for me was that I had ankle surgery in January. So this was like my big thing that I was going to come up, and I'm like, I'm going to get out of my ankle surgery funk, and I'm going to go ride 750 kilometers at the end of May. The status of the race now is it's been delayed to July 4th. Whether it goes or not, I'm not really sure. We're kind of just at a wait and see. My background is, as I met Stevie and Erik at the Mongol Derby in 2014. I since did Race the Wild Coast with Stevie there again as well. And I've done a couple of other kind of wild vacations. Erik took me up to the reindeer people last year as well. So, I get around in this group pretty well.
She sure do.
This would have been my first time in South America. So when I first heard about this whole thing going on, it was kind of like, I wasn't really sure how it was going to play out either. It was like, I think we were told everybody has to go into quarantine here in Ontario for 2 weeks. And then it's going to be all good as long as everybody stays inside for 2 weeks. I'm like, all right, guys, get inside. We're going to have 2 weeks. And then at the end of May, I'm going to go race in Brazil. And I was like really, really confident that this was going to happen, right? So I'm like, all right, 2 weeks, we got this. And then the 2 weeks went on and they're like, no, now we're going to put the state of emergency on and nobody can even leave their houses. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a little bit more serious now. I work in aviation, so I was getting some kind of behind the scenes information too. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Trouble's not going to happen. And, sooner or later, my flight got canceled as well. And I wasn't surprised, but I was still really, really upset about it because I was like, I'm gonna have ankle surgery, and in 4 months I'm gonna ride a bunch of horses, and it's gonna be really badass and all this. So I definitely had a lot of emotions to process around that, because all of a sudden I've lost my huge goal that I've been training for. What was keeping me going through this surgery when I couldn't walk and all that too, right? And I was almost thinking that having this goal, you know, is a huge part of my identity. And I really, really definitely felt the loss for a while, because it felt like a piece of my identity was gone. And I'm sure you guys probably are feeling the same thing too. It's just like, who am I without this thing to train for, or without my horses, or whatever it is that's kind of keeping you going there. But on the upside for that, I've taken the opportunity to kind of explore some of the other aspects of my identity. And like, here I am doing a webinar. I wouldn't have been doing this last year, right? And I'm working on building my fitness business, and I'm doing all these daily workouts and stuff like that. So I've been kind of turning the upset of losing this race, turning it into, as I said, kind of this new person that I'm really excited to kind of share with everybody. And I'm hoping that everybody else kind of has that same mentality of, yes, we can just take this time and do whatever it is that we want for ourselves. So that was kind of something I wanted to share as well. Yeah, okay. That's deep. Going real deep. Gonna pass it off to Claire now. I'm sorry. But we were talking the other day, and I know you got some really good stuff to share too. So it's not easy, but.
So I'm Claire. I was supposed to ride the Mongol Derby this August, but it has been postponed to July of next year. What's cool though is that the Adventurists are doing 2 derbies for next year, so we'll be going back to back with us riding in July, and then the 2021 riders riding in August, I believe. Erik, correct me if that's wrong.
You're right.
Yeah, but there will be 2 separate courses, so we'll have like a completely unique experience still. And then the Mongol Derby is the world's longest horse race right now. It's 1,000 kilometers across the Mongolian steppe. But unlike Sarah, who's riding one amazing horse for hers, I ride multiple. In terms of COVID and the shutdown, I feel the same as Sarah, as we didn't really think it was a huge deal, especially in Buffalo, even though I am in New York, and New York City is such a hot spot for the pandemic right now. We thought that, 2 weeks we were fine, and then it moved to a month, and then it moved to, indefinitely. And our governor is kind of a huge force right now for pandemic talks in America. So who knows how long we'll be quarantined for. I luckily work for a horse farm, so I am still riding. I still know what it's like to feel a horse underneath me. And I know some people don't have that opportunity. But I am not endurance training like I was. I don't have those opportunities here where I live. So I am missing that huge part of my life right now. But I am just taking it day by day. I really see this as kind of like a blessing in disguise, because I can get a more physical strength training regimen incorporated into my daily life that I didn't have before. And I can really set myself up to be, I think, in a better mental and physical place next year for the Derby than I would have been if it had launched this August.
Cool.
There you go. More training time.
More training. Yeah.
Ashley, I think your race is next. You were going to be doing Tevis this year with Stevie.
Yeah, my name is Ashley. I was slated to do the 2020 edition of Tevis on one of Stevie's horses. Tevis, I believe, is slated as the world's toughest one-day 100-mile ride.
Yep.
It's through the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. And I guess, I don't know, my emotions are kind of all mixed on the cancellation of this race. It really does suck. I've been looking forward to this for a year now. But last year, Sarah and I actually were supposed to do the Tevis educational ride. And about a week after we booked our flights, they moved the date because there was still too much snow in the mountains. And we had to change our plans around a bit because Sarah was going off to Mongolia to ride reindeer. So we ended up going to hang out with Stevie and ride her horses anyway, which was a blast. And that's how I got to meet Hero, because I think I was originally supposed to be riding Alex. and I clicked with Hero. So, and then we got this idea rolling. But I guess I'm in that headspace where like the educational ride was canceled last year and I had to move that to this year. And I don't know, it's just kind of like seems par for the course. Like it's canceled, it'll happen next year. We'll figure out a way to make it happen. So like, I am kind of upset it's canceled, but at the same time, I went through these emotions last year when we couldn't do the Ed ride. So kind of taking it day by day and see how we go.
And Alita, you're doing Race the Wild Coast in October. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what the status is and a little bit about your background as well?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. My name's Alita Daniels, joined by DeBeer here. And I'm doing Race the Wild Coast. It's supposed to be at the 3rd week of October. And it's 370 kilometers this year. They've added a couple of kilometers on, so about 260 or 270 miles over 5 days. You have 4 different horses. They're giving you 4.
Wow.
Historically, it's been 3. Yeah. And it's along the wild coast of South Africa. So I'm not an endurance rider. I'm starting to be one, and this was my year when Stevie got me to sign up, not on purpose. I just did it because I knew her and she did it, and I'm like, I could do this. So I have a mare. I have a standard bred mare that I didn't know if she was cut out for endurance, but we've started to do some training, and it turns out she is. Claire and myself and then another girl were supposed to be in California at Stevie's place this year doing a training week, boot camp week. I live in Virginia, and so I did come. I decided to risk it. I flew with a lot of masks and hand sanitizer and gloves and just not talking to people. So I decided to come because Race the Wild Coast is still tentatively going to take place in October. The race coordinator, Barry, emailed everybody saying they're hoping that travel restrictions will be lifted. They may postpone it to May of next year. He's hoping not to do that. That'll be close to the 2021 race. In Virginia, we still have places to ride. So I am very fortunate in that regard that I'm still able to get out. I'm able to get like mountain training miles. So I'm still training as if it's going to happen because I set my heart on this. I decided that this was my year to see what I'm made of, and so I have to continue on as if it's still going to happen, and it will. Just don't know if it's going to be in October as planned, or next October, or even in May. So I'm still I'm riding as often as I can, and I'm very fortunate that I still can.
You and I are kind of in the same boat there. It's like, it might be here, but it might be then, and it might be later, and who knows, but it's definitely going to happen.
It's like endurance riders kind of are used to taking things in stride because you don't know what's going to happen, and like you can plan for a year and a half to do something, and then you don't know what's going to happen. So as endurance riders, I think we're kind of equipped to accept this and understand that
goals change with things that happen to your horse.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you break a bone. So
yeah. Absolutely. And that kind of leads into the next question too. I do find that the endurance riders, they're really good at making a plan. They're really, really good at sticking to the plan. But they have to be great. They have to be able to change that plan and pivot their goals. So I kind of want to know what everybody else is going to change their goals this season. If how they're changing it, what they're trying to get accomplished here. So I'll start off with myself. So I'm still going to do the ride in Brazil. I'm absolutely committed to it. I have the vacation days. I'll take them whenever I need to take them. I've got a flight credit now, right? Because I might as well. So I am in mode of I'm going to continue to train like it's going to happen, whether it happens or not. I am kind of setting now these like little goals. Tomorrow I'm hoping I will actually run 5K, which will be the first time since my ankle surgery only 3 months ago, which I think is still like really, really, really cool. So I'm kind of enjoying those small milestones in the meantime, right? And that's how I'm modifying my goals. I may not have a ride season this year. We don't know. You know, as you start canceling more rides, it may be that the rides later, whether they can host them or not, even if they can host them, they may not run simply because nobody's prepared for it. Other people might not attend. And the ride managers, you know, they don't want to lose a lot of money on it. They shouldn't have to, right? So they may choose not to run it at all. We might not have a ride season whatsoever, right? So I'm modifying my goals to things that I can control in myself, as opposed to things that are determined based on somebody else providing a ride season for me. Does anybody else, we'll just kind of go free. We won't do a certain order or anything. Does anybody else want to chime in on how they've changed their goals for this ride season?
Yeah, I just want to say something real quick. So I was going to do my endurance race ever with my mare. I was supposed to go to one in Maryland at the beginning of April, and I was excited for that. But I honestly, I'm happy to have more time to train instead of perform, if that makes sense. And kind of, so it's just a longer time for us to kind of get used to this, get used to what endurance is, and not having the stress of having to feel like I need to be ready for a specific event or a specific date, is kind of taking the stress out of training for me. So that's what I'm experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Claire, are you finding that too?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I'm a little new to endurance too. I only did 2 races at the end of last summer. And so this year was kind of supposed to be like me helping out Painted Bar, which is the farm that I'm riding endurance with, of training some of their horses who had never done endurance before. So when we heard, I was actually supposed to go to the same race and just take a newbie on its first time. And when we heard that, you know, that race was canceled, and then a one in mid-April was canceled, and then a one close to our home was canceled in May, we were like, well, this is really unfortunate. So before I heard that the Mongol Derby was canceled, I was like, I guess I will just continue physical strength training. And then I think when the Olympics was canceled, I was like, this is the end of the world as we know it. But right now, I want to kind of get heavy into physical strength training because I'm not really someone that gets motivated by physical exercise, as terrible as that sounds. Like, I hate running. I don't think anyone should run unless they're being chased. Like, I really think it's just like the worst activity. And I say this with a lot of love because, like, my brother runs half marathons. Like, my aunt has run marathons. But I'm like, why do you do this to your body? Like, I don't get it. And I've just been lucky my whole life to be like kind of small, I guess. So like, I've just never seen the gym as something I need to do. But I do realize that like physical strength from me working a farm job and then just riding like isn't enough. Like if I want to do well and I want to feel well, especially like me riding 75 miles a day for the Derby, right? So I'm hoping with this time that I can really create like a good strength workout routine that I can really get into, and it becomes just such a part of my routine that, you know, when endurance riding does pick up again, or maybe when I pick up a second job to help pay for the Derby, like I can keep these habits going instead of just being like, oh, I'm busy now. Ooh, looks like I can't work out today. So that's what I'm really hoping for. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a good time to form habits.
Actually, but
got the time to form good habits right now.
Yes, I know, exactly. Because I am only working one job and I really do have the time. So like I need to do this now. I really do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Nice.
Okay. Does anybody else want to talk about how their goals have changed or how the plan has changed?
I guess I can go. Like I haven't, like my goal is now it's just moved to next year. So I guess in the meantime, I'm like Claire, I'm just focusing on more of the physical fitness. And then now I have more time, especially with the running. My goal was to be able to like get off and run the canyons in Tevis to give the horse a break. And I guess now I have more time to do that. Like, you know, in an ideal world, like I'd really like to be able to be capable of running half of it if I needed to. So I guess this just gives me more time to do that. So it's a different goal, but it's still in the end helping me in my ultimate goal of doing Tevis.
Stevie, do you want to talk about how, because we didn't really touch on how you are actually a trainer who leases horses for Tevis, how this is affecting your race training for your horses and your goals for this ultimate race too, right?
Yeah, so things have changed a lot here. We don't only lease our horses for Tevis, we actually lease for all endurance rides. It's a great way to bring people into the sport because there is such time constraint on actually being able to get a horse physically fit. Luckily, my husband and I can ride, so we can get them ready for races. And then, yeah, we get people hooked that way. They come do one and they're like, I want to do this with my horse. Anyhow, our whole season being canceled, that does help. The horses help pay for themselves this way, and it's pretty tough, but I feel fortunate because I am friends with a lot of people who have like safaris around the world, and a lot of people are really suffering that have horse businesses and linked with tourism, which is kind of us, but kind of not really.
Definitely me.
It's affecting a lot of people, and I'm also, yeah, COVID's hitting us hard. Dylan and I are bartenders as well, so we are spending a lot of time with the horses these days, and just trying to make things work. Luckily, I put shoes on horses' feet, and they still need those. So.
You're an essential worker, Stevie.
Hustling.
Am I non-essential? I don't know.
Erik,
Yeah.
Hey guys.
You're on.
Yeah.
How's it affecting
Sorry, I was
you?
taking care of the puppy that likes to bark at leaves. So yeah, no, I usually live in Mongolia April until November. So I run my own horseback trips that Sarah's been on. The reindeer one looks pretty cool with her little headdress thing she had on back then. But yeah, so I live in Mongolia April to November, run my own trips, and then also work the Mongol Derby. So it's definitely a huge change for me. I think this is the first time I'll potentially be in the States for a summer for like the last, 8 or 9 years. So I'm currently in Missouri on my family farm, which is nice to be able to go to, and my horses are here and whatnot. So it's actually been, financially it sucks because all my trips so far are either canceled or postponed or just on hold. But at the same time, it's the first time like I've had to put the brakes on travel. I'm usually out of the country every other month, or somewhere different. so slowing down a lot as far as not on a plane all the time. So I'm actually enjoying it in a weird way. Like the money side and that kind of thing kind of sucks, but all my herders will survive. They have, sheeps and goats and tons of stuff to be able to eat, and I'll still support them in other ways. But yeah, it's nice. I think this whole group probably travels, quite often, whether it be for horse racing or business or what have you. So it's nice to be stuck and kind of have a bit of normalcy for a little bit, or focus on other things that you can do, or other sides of you. Like I think we're all pretty big into horses, but it's nice to take time out to do other things. Like we're building a barn. It's a little bit horse related, but it's also kind of design and things like that. So there's other things I'm personally interested in that I'm getting to play with a lot more right now that I usually wouldn't have the time to, because I'd have my clients to take care of and trips to sort and plan. So it's a nice time to regroup, and if you have a business, build it up stronger. Stay in touch with your circles. I think a lot more people are getting on Zoom calls and taking the time to call one another, whether out of boredom or whatever. But I think the importance is that you're taking the time to connect with people. I mean, Sarah, when is the last time we've ever video chatted? So
I don't think we've ever video chatted. I don't usually video chat with people. I'm like too, I don't know, uptight about that kind of thing. I did want to ask you.
Yeah, so it's nice to be able to just like that. What'd you say?
Oh yeah, it's nice. I'm enjoying it. I wanted to ask you a bit though about how you're managing the logistics. Now you've mentioned how the Mongol Derby is going to be run two years in 1 year now. But are you doing the same sort of thing with your trips? How are you managing the logistics of kind of delaying all these from an event manager standpoint? Because we've heard a lot from how the riders are managing, and we kind of just like, oh, we just get to sit and chill for a while. But this has got to be a pretty huge burden on you to try to manage these logistics here.
Yeah, I'd say as far as my own trips go, a large majority of the people still want to come. So, which we'll see if that ever happens this year. But I'll transfer people over next year, and then I'll probably have to run less trips in the grand scheme of things because the Mongol Derby, now we're running 2 of those, so that ties into prime summertime in Mongolia. So as far as my trips go, logistics, it's not really a big deal. I'll probably get more people next year, hopefully. You know what I mean? Hey, if you guys want to come see Reindeer Land or Eagles or anything like that, hit me up. So my business wise, logistics, it's great because I get to recalibrate and build a website. I get to do this stuff because I'm a one-man army with an army in Mongolia. I have Doogie, who's like my right-hand man. So we're working together to build our business tighter and fix, admin problems and things like that. As far as Mongolia goes, I think it's, event manager wise, it's a lot better right now because I think we have a full, over a year to really dial some things in, to really, beef a lot of things up, especially with our herding families. So when I do go to Mongolia, I'll be helping out with the families more, which is what I love. Shatra, who's like the head of ops in Mongolia, almost everybody knows her. She's a powerhouse. So she'll be over there meeting with even more herding families, being really selective about who we use for next year. I think it's going to be fun running 2 races back to back. It's going to be a little bit crazy.
Are you going to have more horses this time, or are you going to use the same horses and give them the rest in the middle?
We'll probably eat up the amount of horses that we use just for spares, and they're semi-wild, so some you can't even catch. So I think the plan right now is to have the team select even more horses, but they are getting, I think it's a 2-week break in between races. So, which we've talked to all the horse herding families, and they said, no, that's more than enough. So that's what's going on with that. So it's probably going to be a lot more chaotic once it goes on, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, most of the riders, and Stevie knows because she's on the team for 2020. I feel like we've known them for like a year and a half, right? So I feel like when they finally get there, we're going to be like, oh, we know you, even though maybe I haven't met anybody in person. But it's going to be cool, I think. Mongolia better get ready. There are a lot of people coming.
Stevie, I want to ask you a question too, because it was something that I picked out from what Erik is saying, is that there's still lots of people who want to go on these trips. Are you finding, because I'm finding now too, so Stevie also runs these training camps similar to what I do, and trains riders to help get them prepared for endurance. I find I'm getting a lot more requests. I can't fulfill them right now, but I'm getting a lot more interest in coming and riding with me. Are you finding the same thing too?
Kind of. I'd say it more on a local level. Just people want to, people are.
Oh, sorry, you're cutting out a little bit there. Can you repeat the last sentence?
Yeah, sorry. I was saying locally we're seeing a lot more interest, mostly with people being locked down in San Francisco wanting to come out this way. So a little more interest there. I'd say a lot of people are, I think that what COVID's done, it's kind of distilled down what's important to people. So I think, everyone's kind of like, you know what, I want to do that race, or I want to do this. Like, it's kind of a life-changing shift for a lot of people because you have a lot of time for reflection. So I think it's like pushing people to do what they wanted to do earlier.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think one, they've got more time on their hands, so they're venturing to the dark corners of the interwebs and they're finding people like us. And then the other side is too, is yeah, I think you're right. The people kind of realize how fragile life is and they're like, let's do this while we still can, right?
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of you guys talked a little bit about your physical and fitness training for this. I wanted to touch on that a little bit more deeply. How are you guys adjusting your physical fitness training? I know a lot of you said that you're trying to increase it, but how do you kind of see it playing out? Because now a lot of us are looking for another year and there is a risk of overtraining. You know, there's a certain taper period. How are you managing the physical aspects right now versus how do you see it playing out later? And where's your focus right now when it comes to the physical training, both from an out of the saddle standpoint and riding your horses, if you are able to ride your horses right now? Anyone
Who wants to take that one?
I'm like the least fit person, so I'll go last. Someone else go.
I can go.
I'll go first. Yeah, so like I said before, I'm really trying to get a routine established for physical fitness now. And I honestly see me doing that pretty heavily. I don't really know what that means exactly yet. At least through the summertime until this pandemic kind of dies off and I can get a second job, because once that happens, I'm going to have less time available. So then I foresee like my physical training dropping off through the holidays, and then me hopefully picking it back up from January through June in leveling degrees. And then I'm also hoping that next year I can have a normal endurance season with painted bar. So we'll be racing from like April through June. And then I'll be riding my horses. Before, I'm trying to prep my horse actually for a 15-mile intro endurance race in September. But I'm bringing her back slowly. But I will just be riding, I guess, my normal amount, trying to increase my physical training through summer, probably wean off both through the holidays, and then ramp up again from January to June, and then go to Mongolia in July. So.
Cool. Okay.
Great.
Ashley, it looked like you were ready to jump too before Claire beat you to it.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess I've kind of been looking at it the same way I train my endurance horses. Like I don't have a race at the moment to peak towards, so I'm kind of just on my maintenance schedule. Like I'm not really pushing too much, just kind of keeping that baseline of fitness. So when it does get closer to the time of the race, like I can aim to be at my peak fitness for the race. So I guess it's kind of like my winter schedule now. Like right now it's kind of crappy out, so I've been working more on my strength training, maybe not upping my weights as quickly and just kind of slowly working through stuff, working on form, getting a nice baseline. And then when it becomes nicer out, start picking up my running again, very slowly, just kind of casually to get that nice baseline. And then next year at this time is when I'd start to be ramping stuff up. So right now it's just kind of keeping steady.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same way as you on that. I said I'm trying to do it the same way as I do with our horses, because right now we don't really know when it is. You know, you and we had planned on doing the Coates Creek ride, doing the 100, and at this point it hasn't been canceled yet, but it would be technically the first ride of the season, and nobody's going to jump into the first ride of the season and do 100, right? Like you can't do that. So I'm at the same point where I'm gonna maintain. You know, I'm building a little bit because of the ankle surgery. That's kind of not relevant. I'm trying to keep my horses at a baseline fitness, because if I get them too fit, they're going to be absolutely unmanageable. But I also don't want to injure themselves too, right? Because if there is any hope of a ride season, I would rather do a little bit than nothing, right? Because I was overshooting it and didn't do that. So I'm trying to balance the training myself, because I need time in the saddle, assuming that this is going to go in July, with kind of keeping my horses low key as well. Yeah, I think Stevie probably has something to say about this too.
Yeah, as far as staying fit and the horses staying fit, we have the unfortunate problem of all the horses needing to do a 50 right now. Like, they're kind of squirrely. They're way too fit. So we're going to be actually taking them out while Alita's here. We're going to do quite a lot of mileage as if we were doing a race, just to get the energy out of these guys. They need to do the distance. Yeah, it's at the same time, we don't know when the season's going to start up again, so we can't not keep them fit. And I mean, our first race of the season could easily be the Virginia City 100, which wasn't even a race we were planning on doing, but that is September 19th, and they have said that they're going to try to keep that going until the last minute. So Virginia City 100 is a big race in Nevada, actually. A lot of people want to do it after Tevis, but it's very close to Tevis. So without Tevis this year, it's a possibility that that's a race that we go to. So anyways, just keeping the horses ready for 100 at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And keep hoping. Yeah.
Erik, did you want to talk on the fitness, or do you want to just skip this question?
Well,
it's okay if you want to skip.
I spent most of the day like cleaning out ancient stall in the old barn that we're like redoing. So we did that today. So I'll probably be dead for the week. And that's my fitness.
Horse chores are great fitness. Lifting bale, lots of things you can do. Water buckets.
I dragged a whole lot of hoses yesterday. Okay, let's move on to my next question too. So these races, they are big investments, and that's like the number one question everyone always asks me is how do you afford these races? And the other thing is oh, I could never do that because I don't have the money. I know my usual answer is that, well, the thing with these races and these riders is they almost never have the money. What they end up doing is they're resourceful and they find the money, right? And being a resourceful rider to find the money helps you in the race, being resourceful and finding ways to get through the race. So I wanted to ask you guys about your fundraising plans, how this has affected it. How does it affect your general financial well-being? Have you been able to use any of these tools that you kind of learned in the fundraising, if you've done this previously, to kind of keep yourself afloat in these times? How are you kind of adapting from a money standpoint to be able to kind of just keep yourself going these days?
I'll start because I think Race the Wild Coast is one of the cheaper ones. Not to say that it's not cheap, but one of the cheaper ones in comparison with Mongol Derby. So one of the I hate to say benefit of what we're going through because it's just a weird word to use with this, but one of the unexpected consequences, I guess, is that the exchange rate for the currency that Race the Wild Coast is paid in, the South African rand, the exchange rate is super low right now. So the race is actually costing me less than it would if these were normal circumstances. So I went ahead, I was planning on just paying in increments and just like saving money like crazy, like just being really aggressive with my saving. I ended up putting it on a 0 interest credit card just because the exchange rate was so low and the value of the dollar was higher. So, but my plans to pay for it, I did set up a GoFundMe, and a few of my friends were incredibly generous enough to give a little towards that. But I had contemplated, I work for a nonprofit, so I just have a typical 9-to-5 job as the executive director, pretty much. I've worked in the service industry my whole life prior, and before this, I was thinking about getting a job bartending just to make a few extra dollars just to sock away for it. But I didn't really have any other plans to pay for it other than just aggressive saving.
Mm-hmm.
So on that note,
very well too, by the way.
What's that?
So you're keeping your composure very well.
Yeah,
by the way. Very serious financial talk as you're getting your hair mussed I
Yeah,
have.
I don't mind it at
Love
all.
it.
I like the attention. But I had been paying for a gym membership. I'm a very self-motivated person. I mean, we all are when it comes down to it, if you want something bad enough. But I am driven by having other people with me. So going to the gym, having other people around, doing yoga classes, the aquatic fitness classes. I'm saving money by not doing that right now. So, and it's not insignificant. Gyms are expensive. So, positive and the negatives, I'm fortunate to still be working. So
Yeah, I feel you that way too. You know, spending time at home now, I'm working from home. So usually I would commute an hour into the city in and out each way, right? So that's 2 hours of time I have now to just do like whatever I want, which is super cool. But then I'm also not spending the money on gas. I'm buying less takeout. You know, there's a lot of things that I can kind of put back into my fund here to either reinvest in my business or to reinvest or just, you know, spoil myself and have one of these vacations too. I'm sure travel is probably pretty cheap right now if you want to take that risk. There's always that risk versus reward payoff. When I went down to do Race the Wild Coast, I flew through Turkey like a month after the bombings, and it was really, really cheap. But again, you know, I wanted to make it happen. I didn't have a lot of money, so I made it work for me. And it was weird going through a half-bombed airport, but I got there safe. Maybe that's not within everybody's tolerance, but it was within mine. And as you said, if you want something bad enough, you make it happen and you figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah. And COVID should be reminding you guys, life's too short. If you're watching this, go do one of those races.
Do it.
About it.
Now is the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Or
goal
come
to
with
have.
Eric.
Claire, you
Margaritas,
we
just
were,
saying.
yeah. Claire, when we were talking the other day as a practice round of this, you had a pretty good reaction to this from a financial standpoint, and I wanted to share it with everybody if you don't mind.
Oh yeah. That's fine. The Mongol Derby, as far as I know, is the most expensive of these races. I never grew up with a lot of money. I don't make a lot of money. And so when I got into the Derby, I was like, you know what, whatever it takes, hell or high water, I'm paying for this thing. It has been very stressful though for me. Financial strain is like a huge anxiety trigger for me. So watching those dollars like rack up on a 0 interest credit card has been a little suffocating. I do have a GoFundMe page, and I have very generous friends and a wonderful boss who donates way more money than she should. But still, I'm covering like at least half of the race cost, and then I have my flights, and then I have my gear. And so COVID has been a bit of a blessing for me in that I should be able to pay the Derby off now before I even go, which is going to be so great because when I get to Mongolia, I'm not going to have this strain on my brain of thinking, oh, when I get off of this amazing adventure, I now have to run home and work 3 jobs and like clear my credit card before my wedding, because I am getting married in February too. So I was like, oh my God, like how much debt can I actually rack in like a 1-year period? But this is right. Ooh, but this is actually like really, really great for me because now I do have that time where I can work more and I can pay down my Derby debts and I can still train adequately for all of this. So it's really falling into line easily for me. And I think I'm taking it maybe better than a lot of the other 2020 riders because I'm like, ooh, I can breathe right now. Like I can go from here down to like here now. So yeah, it's a lot, but I know it's going to be worth it, which is why I'm doing it. I obviously wouldn't be taking on a debt of this cost if I didn't think it was going to be like life-changing or something incredible. But yeah, you really do need to have like a plan in place, or you at least need to be able to become comfortable with debt in some extent, at least from my standpoint. But knowing that, you know, you're going to get it done, like it will be paid off at some point. So
Let me chime in there real quick, Sarah.
Great,
And
yeah.
I think I want to talk about the Derby with the cost, because we all did it, you, me, and Stevie as well. And I think that goes for, I interview riders as well, Stevie, Dylan, Maggie sometimes as well. But I think the take home is that when we're picking people, because you're like, oh, how do you pick them? We like the ones that have to fight for it. It's like, we don't want to just accept everybody just because they can financially afford it. Like, it's a tough race, but I think the toughest part before the race is how the hell are you going to afford it? Like, I worked 3 jobs. I worked 80 hours a week. I slept on a friend's couch for a year, and, it was a huge challenge, but then it changes your life just financially. What do you think?
It's part of the
What'd you say,
challenge.
Steve?
I said part of the challenge to doing the Mongol Derby. Sorry, I'm like jumping in there, but part of the challenge is that whole year leading up to the Derby. It's what helps change you. It's not just the experience itself.
Right.
It's everything leading up for it. And that's why I'm so lucky to be able to be a part of both riders training and doing the interviews. But when I do interviews, I'm looking for that X factor. And the X factor is this going to be life-changing and meaningful? And I mean, for so many people it would be, and it is.
Right.
We love people that have to find creative ways to make it happen. That's what gives it a story, and that's what gives it meaning.
I do want to interject too, and I just want to mention to anybody who's watching this, who is going to watch it later after we upload it, the high price tag of this isn't to be elitist at all. It comes because there's so much that you guys put into it, and I know we don't have time to go into all the things that you guys put into it, but a lot of people think, they look at the price tag and they're just like, oh well, aren't they picture eating your caviar with your monocle and your top hat or something, right? It's like not the case, right? It's because there is so much support that's required during the Derby itself, but also for you guys as organizers leading up into it too, right? So I'm sure you're probably feeling the effects of this too, Erik, as the organizers. Maybe not you personally, but I'm sure there's a lot of talk going on about how you guys are managing your resources as well. I don't want to, put words in your mouth or assume or anything, right? Like maybe it's not, but I do want to kind of clear that up for anybody who's watching and thinks it is an elitist sport. It is because there's so much that goes into the race, not just for each rider, but for the organizing committee as well.
Yeah, like we use 500 Mongolians, 500 herders, around probably close to 2,000 horses next year, plus international crew, plus medical stuff, plus veterinary stuff, plus event managers, things like that. So it adds up. And I'll say that too, like my personal trips that I run aren't the cheapest thing, but you know what, you get what you pay for. You want to do something epic, it's going to take a little hustle, but I think that's, and Stevie can agree with some of the events. It's like, we're responsible for that experience because that's what it is, So, I mean, Sarah, you've been on my trip last year. You can say how it was for you, but I take it very serious because I had to be in a lot of people's situation, sleeping on a friend's couch, working 80 hours a week to afford the Mongol Derby at first, and then to do my own adventures just privately, worked my ass off to drop a lot of money to do it right. And then before I started a company. So I think I say that for all the riders and people that are looking for something to do, work your ass off even harder and do the one thing that's incredible a year and don't do the average shit because it's not worth it, and
that is a fantastic point, Erik.
It's just
I
true.
love it.
It's like,
yeah.
And if it makes anyone feel any better, the Adventurists definitely barely even turn a profit. Honestly, they're doing it to have amazing races. Erik and I working for them, we know. That money is getting distributed to the herders everywhere else. Like we said, so many people have to be involved. It seems like they'd be making lots of money, but instead, Tom, the owner of the company, is putting it back into the company so that it becomes an amazing place for people to have amazing experiences, which is really great.
And I think the same thing goes to say too with people like you and me, Stevie, who are, leasing our horses out at rides, and we're trying to get people into the sports too, right? I have not, I just did my taxes and I definitely did not turn a profit. I don't know if anyone's rumbling at home being like, Sarah made so much money doing this. I was like, oh no, I don't. But it means I got a refund on my taxes, which was nice. but that's the thing too, is there is so much that goes in at any level, whether you're bringing on grassroots riders or doing, you know, the world's most epic horse race. There's so much that goes into it, so much that you don't see, and there's a lot of people hustling for you behind the scenes that you sometimes don't even realize.
Anything with horses, the price tag's coming because
Yeah.
for a reason. You're getting an experience, like Erik said, you get what you pay for. I mean, same Sarah, things work, and it's us because we enjoy the horses and the people we meet through it. So yeah, you get what you pay for in all these races, training, everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
now,
and also I'd say,
I'm going to cut you guys off because we're running short on time now. Ashley hasn't had a chance to answer this question, and then we have one more question. So I'm going to let Ashley answer. We have a few people who are still on with us, a couple logged out. But if anybody has any questions who's watching, please just type in the comments. I am watching it. So if you have any questions, we can address that before the hour is up. But I'm going to let Ashley finish. I'm going to ask my last question, and if you've got anything, do it now, and we'll do it before we close at 8. We'll rush through that last little bit, but it'll be worth it.
I will be quick. Honestly, like, if you want it bad enough, you will find a way to get it. Like, again, I took on another job. Like, I have my 9-to-5 day job. I took on bartending as a second job, which is fabulous. And I am kind of enjoying this COVID break right now because obviously I'm not working a second job because all the bars are closed. And it's giving me more time to work on myself, but it definitely helped coming up with the fees to pay for everything. So you get, like you said, you get resourceful and you find a way to make it happen if you really want it to.
Ashley, can I ask you a personal question? Have you paid off to Stevie your full lease now?
I believe so.
Yeah.
as long as the transfer went through. There's a transfer that I said before Patagonia.
So
as long as that went through.
Oh yeah.
How, I want to ask you, Ashley, how do you feel now that there's a delay, but you've paid everything off versus when you had a very strict timeline and you had to pay it? Like, do you feel a lot of relief that it's, in a way, that it's been delayed, or at least that you don't have to worry about continuing this hustle?
Yes and no, because I also just bought a house, so now my hustle is going towards paying for a house. So like, I guess it's kind of like speeded that process up. So I mean, it does feel good because now I can focus on that and not have to worry about the race, and that'll just come when it comes.
Cool. Okay, well, I've got one last question for everybody, and you've all read the question before, but this will be new for our watchers. What is your best one and only piece of advice for riders who have lost their big goal this year and are having trouble kind of transitioning that mental headspace into a new goal or a new focus? What is your best advice for them from your experience?
I guess just to actually try to flip the situation and realize, wow, this is an amazing experience. Already getting ready for a big event is kind of fun. It's type 2 fun. You don't realize it till afterwards, but you're like, man, that was a great year getting ready for the Mongol Derby. Well, guess what? Now you have 2 years almost. And you get to be a part of that experience for so much longer. And how lucky are you? That's so cool. That's such a great thing to do. It's a whole other year to really focus on yourself and your goals. So that's fantastic.
I'll jump on since I'm right here. So I think the best piece of advice is just be flexible and understand that as humans living on an unpredictable planet, things will happen, and look for those other opportunities, so like longer time to pay for it. Look for that positive in there and finding what you can do despite not being able to train the way you thought you might. It's going to take something different, and let that be the beauty of your experience.
I would say just to look at the bigger picture. So even though our seasons may be canceled or our big races may be canceled, we're still part of this like incredible community, whether it be, like a mega endurance race community or just within our own at-home communities. And like, we have to remember that we're just so lucky to like be a part of the horse community and ride horses and like get to spend our time with these animals and work as partners with them. So it may suck that we don't have something to like perform at this year or work towards, but we're still in like an incredible community with animals. So
yeah, and I guess like I would say take the time to work on yourself. You have all this time sitting in your house, like use it productively, like work on your fitness, watch training videos, you know, go do groundwork with your horse instead of riding. Like there's all sorts of little things you can use to make yourself better, so then when we can get back to riding, we're at 100%.
Erik?
I'd say, like I said before, you know, focus has been on horses, but I think if you're one of those people that, you know, the race has been postponed for you, whether it be Race Wild Coast or, you know, the one that you're doing, Tevis, or the one in South America, what else are you interested in? You know, is horses just, I mean, clearly horses, because I see my Facebook feed, there's not one post that doesn't have a horse in it, but I'm also like, yo, I'm interested in other things. So why don't I explore that and talk to those people that maybe don't like horses and maybe they like art or building
Time to
things
catch up with your
designing.
non-horse friends.
Yeah, so go hang out with them non-horse friends that you've been avoiding, or at least do Zooms with them, and catch up with them, because I feel like we spend a lot of time like, you know, focused on the horse, which I get it, we have to, because it's our jobs. And if you're racing, then it's your, you know, your whole MO. But spend some time, like, what else do you do? What else is interesting? What makes you a different person? So can you sing, you know, work on that shit? Do you like karaoke? Like, get that going. You know, can you make a damn good drink? Get that going.
And we all know karaoke is an important skill for Mongolia.
Yeah.
So Erik,
So that's what I'd say.
you pretty much took what I was saying too, is that, you know, instead of thinking of it as a loss of part of you, is it's an opening. It's something that you're able to explore, and you're able to fill and you know, look into those things that maybe you used to love, or you maybe thought, hey, I might want to try that someday. Or maybe it's something that, you know, you just go looking for something and start browsing the internet and say, well, that looks cool, you know, and then you end up at the bottom of the Mongol Derby webpage where you start putting in your name, right? Yeah, just, you know, take the opportunity to kind of explore that open potential in you. I'd like to wrap it up there, but I do want to say too, if you do want to explore some things and fitness might be on your thing, we do have our Ride Like an Athlete group. So that's, you know, you'll find all of us there, and I'll make sure to post everybody's social media accounts so you can find out more about everyone training and how they're doing, and find out about Erik's trips and Stevie's boot camps and everything too. So I'll make sure that we post that afterwards. I hope everybody who came and watched really enjoyed the different perspectives from our speakers today and from the different races. I was so thankful to have you guys join me. Like, you guys are like my best people. I love having you here. It's really nice to see you too. It's been far too long. I would like to go a little bit deeper into this too. So for you guys, also for those who are watching, I'd like to do some more one-on-one. So if anybody has a particular topic that they would like to delve into, any particular, you want to go more into a race or a training topic or something, bring it to me, bring it to our group. We want to hear from you. Just be open and share. We're here. See, we're all people. Everybody wave. We're real people behind the keyboards. So
when it works.
It works. So yeah, just open up to us. Tell us what you want to hear, and let's do something fun, you know, until we can get back out into the real world, right? Let's have this fun in the digital world now.
Sarah, let's talk. Let's do one about gear.
I
feel like
we could call it the Gaucho Derby gear review.
we can do one on what waterproof is or something.
That sounds great.
For everybody, all the races.
We'll put a poll out to the group, and we'll do it that. But we're clear of an hour now. I'm really proud that we kept it to an hour and 3 minutes. Like, how perfect was that? And we will go into some of these topics a little deeper next time. So again, thanks for joining me, everyone, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Good to see all your faces.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
How do we hang up?